question for you. Have you ever heard the term correspondences or magical correspondences and sort of know what it is, but don't really know? I am here for you because I am going to talk today about what correspondences really are and how you can develop your own list of your own personal correspondences to use in your magical practice. And when we're done, I will remind you again that if you want to have more conversations like this, please join me over in my school communities. I will put the link in the notes when I post this. And I would love to have you come over and have more conversations with me about all things magical. Okay, so hi, Jill. Thanks for being here today. I'm excited for today. It might be a short one, mostly because it's really, really hot and I'm dying over here. I actually turned the air on, believe it or not. I buckled down or buckled under and turned on my air conditioning. The neighbors must think I've lost my mind. Okay, so correspondences. Go ahead, Jill. What were you going to say?
It's just crazy hot on the East Coast right now. Just like,
yep,
yeah,
it's bad. Okay, so if I say the word red, what comes to mind for you? What's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Kitchens.
Okay.
Tiny rooms.
Red, okay. Why is that?
Red is a really good color for food, to be around food. It helps you, inspires your appetite. It also reminds me of flames and warmth, and it's rich. It has a rich flavor to it. So
that's really interesting. I tend to think about cardinals, right? That's just the first thing that pops into my mind. Sometimes Christmas, you know, because you got the red and the green, but it's often associated with love, as you said, with fire. It can be associated with danger. You might associate it with something like a stop sign, right? It just depends on, and if you live in a town that has like a baseball team or a football team where one of their colors is red, maybe that's what you think of. And so you're basically equating something with a type of quality, right? And so a lot of people will say that basically correspondences are symbolic, magical links, but I like to think of them as relationships that you have. And so there's a ton of lists of correspondences. There's downloadable like downloadable sheets that will tell you, here's the correspondences. And there are historically some correspondences that are generally considered to be a very strong link. That is fire. Oh, cool, Florence. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I think of my couches and love. Ah, that's really cool. I love that so much. Okay, so it's a relationship that you have with something based on what your experiences are or what you decide, really. Now, one of the early sort of theories about this is something called the doctrine of signatures. And the doctrine of signatures examines like the shape, color, appearance of plants or crystals or what have you. And it basically says, based on that shape, especially for plants, like based on that shape, what does it do for the body? And you hear things like, oh, well, the walnut looks like a brain, and so it's brain food, right? I personally think that's a lot of pseudoscience right there. But I like to think of correspondences as more symbolic. And that's why it matters what your life experience is when you're deciding on your correspondences. Now, you can have correspondences with planets, colors, herbs, stones, animals, different trees, the seasons even, different directions, different places, numbers. And I think that different cultures build different kind of symbolism, right? Someone who lives in a place where you're going to give out like a red envelope with money in it as a gift, they're going to be more likely, or at least a little more likely than me, to associate red with money, because I really don't. I associate gold and green and silver with money. And so when people are making these lists, it's not really something you own at that point. Hi, Michael. It's really just sort of an idea of what has been traditionally done. And so, for things like a rose, right, that traditionally is tied to love. An oak tree is traditionally tied to strength. Iron is tied to protection. And it's because people noticed patterns about things, right? An oak is big and it's sturdy, and so strength makes sense, right? For as far as the rose goes, I think that it's a really interesting one, because a rose, unlike a lot of flowers, feels very like lush and rich. But as we're going to talk about in a little bit, there are other correspondences with roses as well. Now, some of these correspondences don't come from tradition, they come from folklore. And you hear stories about owls being tied to death, being a portent of death. And in my own personal experience, we don't have a lot of owls around here, but there are some. But I'll hear an owl a couple times a year, maybe. And there was one that was living about 6 blocks down. So if I'd go in the evening, I might hear it if I was walking that way. But I had my last dog, the last dog that I had that passed. I suspected very strongly that he had a stroke, and because he was not balancing right and he wasn't quite walking right. And one night I was sitting here, and it was not too late. It was January, so it was already dark. And this owl was outside in front of my house. I'm in the tree in front of my house, which has never happened before since. And it was just hooting for like hours. And I was like, oh, that's worrisome. And I got up the next morning and I was like, okay, it's Charlie's time. He's going to suffer if I keep him going. So I was like, that was really freaky. But yeah. And there are stories about foxes and ravens. And it's those stories that we hear. You know the story of the poison apple, right? And so it's different, like traditional stories, right? But then we get to your observations, right? Practical observations, right? Fire is going to transform something. So maybe you associate it with being transformative. Honey never spoils. So that might be something that is, like resilient and long-lived, right? Water, we use water to clean things. So that might be associated with cleansing. And I think about that when I'm in the shower, right? I think about sort of spiritually cleansing as well, because it's just like, it's such a good, easy way to incorporate it into your life. So sometimes, the symbolism starts in practical reality and what we do. And then to your very personal experiences, maybe you associate lavender with anxiety because you worked in a hospital and hospitals use it to help calm people, right? Who knows? I don't know what your life is. You know all those symbolic things. And so when you're going to start building your correspondences in your correspondence book, I like to think of it as sort of a 3-layered method of asking yourself. And the first layer is, what do traditions say? If you want to look it up, you want to do some research, what do other people say? And I've got, for example, this book, which is about the meaning of different flowers. And I was talking about roses. Let's look up what rose is.
It's interesting to me that while you're looking this up, that they
Uh-huh.
use lilies as is symbolic of death, but
Mm-hmm.
more traditionally, you see roses being laid on caskets.
Mm-hmm.
Just
No, it's lilac.
was,
Lily, purity. In the Middle Ages, the lily became associated with the Virgin Mary. That's interesting. Um, okay, so rose is it love. Um, and so, okay, so here's what I want to tell you. In Victorian times, for the Victorians, the color of the rose indicated the level of affection, right? So white rose was for innocent love. Blush pink rose was for blossoming romance. And a deep red rose was for passion. So there are different layers that the experts might tell you. Now, and that's just for flowers, right? This is for plants in general. I really like this writer. It's Fez Inkwright, and this is a really great book for taking a deep dive into a lot of different plants. Um, this one is too Our Kindred Home by Alison Morgan. And the thing I like about this that most other books don't do, she talks about herbal actions and energetic, but she gets into like fruits and vegetables. And most people don't talk about correspondences of those things, which is wild. And then the last book I think I'm going to show you is this one, Secret Signs and Symbols, and it's by Adele Nozadar. And it's just a really great book that has, like, historically, this is what we thought, what we thought symbolism for different things is. So I find that, like, doing your research, I think it's great. You can see what people have believed and dive into a little bit of why they believed it and sort of, what those properties are of different things and how that translates to correspondence.
can I ask you a question at this point?
Yeah.
Without hopefully not interrupting you too much. How much do you think that what people ascribe to things impacts the power that the thing has for them?
I think that it has a lot of impact because, again, like I said, we're working on a relationship with different objects or plants or animals, whatever it is. Like for me personally, I've got a deity altar. And I'm working with Hecate and Pan right now. And one of the things that is associated with Hecate are black dogs, right? And in my entire life, except for one of my dogs, I've had all black dogs and all black cats, right? I don't know how that happened, but for the dogs that I've had throughout my life, I have only ever had poodles, and I've had big poodles. So this sits on my Hecate. You can't see me.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, this sits on my altar for Hecate because it's a black dog, and that corresponds with her. But it's also a poodle, and so it makes me feel more connected when I'm trying to work with her. So that's kind of one of the things. And we're gonna just about to get to a little show and tell. I want to go through two more things before we do. Okay, so that's layer one, tradition. What does tradition say? Layer two is, what do I observe, right? Maybe you're looking at a pine tree and you say, wow, that's green all year around. And so what does that mean to you? And how do you do that? I know that you have a special relationship, Jill, with ravens, right? And so that's going to mean something different to you than it would with someone who doesn't have some ravens that come and visit them every year. And like salt, a lot of people use salt for cleansing, right? And a lot of people use salt for cleaning, like you salt scrub. And so I think that, and salt will, pull stuff out of the air. And so it's like, what do things actually do? And you can just decide, hey, I'm going to work with rosemary because of its properties. And, like that's perfectly reasonable. Thanks, Jill, for the link there. And the third layer is, what is my own life taught me? So you're either looking to tradition, you're looking at what the physical attributes of certain things are, or you're looking at your life. And I think this one is really the most important question of all. Not what is traditionally done, and not even necessarily what the object is, but what you have done interacting with that particular thing over your life. You know, maybe your mother always baked with cinnamon. Maybe for you, like a coyote will appear before major life changes, right? I've got something that I call my t-shirt birthday. And 3 times in my life, and like the first time I didn't notice. The second time I'm like, well, that's coincidental. Third time I was like, somebody's telling me something. So my t-shirt birthday will be when everyone in my life forgets that I'm having a birthday completely. And I will get one present from a person that I am just like acquaintances with. And like just barely like hi, you know, in the grocery store kind of way. And it will be a t-shirt. And in the year that follows, I have terrible luck. It's like divorce, death. I mean, it's just terrible. So I'm like, whenever I have a birthday, I'm like, please God, nobody give me a t-shirt. Don't give me a t-shirt. But it's okay if I get a t-shirt, but I also get something else. And I was really sweating it a couple years back because a friend of mine that I'd gone to high school with was like, oh, hey, let's get together. I don't know how she remembered it was my birthday, but she gave me a t-shirt. And I was like, oh, this is bad. This is really, really bad. And I went to the grocery store that day. And there was a woman in front of me checking out. And I'm just, you know, waiting to check out. And she's getting a plant. And she turns to me and said, hey, I don't want this planter. It was a tiny little plant. It was like this little purple planter. She's like, do you want this? And I'm like, yes, I do.
Break the curse! Break the curse!
So yeah, no more t-shirt birthdays. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of the things because you know I love me. So no, why did that cancel? Do not end live. That was weird. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I have correspondences with. I am a big fan, a huge fan of dragons.
Oh, those are so cool.
I love these. And I really, like, think about the symbolism. I'm going to show you so many dragons. I've got this little guy, which is just like it's hard to see him. See, I gotta get the focus. And I've got these 2 little cutie patooties. I think of it as like strength and just power and magic. I've got this guy, which is a little carved guy. I've got me a little dragon candle that my friend made, which is cool. And then, is that all of them? That's all of them. This one is my all-time favorite. This was a birthday gift last year from my boyfriend. And it's a little lamp.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and it charges. I put it in the sun every afternoon to charge it, and so I will have it there. So that's that. Another thing that has a real deep meaning for me, that just simply because I was really, really always been drawn to them, are fossils. And I've got this guy, and then I've got this. Which is a dinosaur bone. And somewhere, I did not track it down, somebody gave me once some fossilized, a little about this big, it was fossilized poop. And I was like, okay, that's an odd gift, but all right. So, but yeah.
Where's that bone from?
Like what kind of creature is it from?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was a gift. And so I didn't get the...
Well, we'll just assume it's a dragon.
I like that. Oh, dinosaurs are as close as we get to dragons, right? Mm-hmm. So interesting. Okay, so what we're gonna look at, do I need to do this? No, no. Okay, so when we're gonna be building our book, just choose a thing, any kind. Oh, I also wanted to say there are correspondences, a lot of correspondences. We talked about this earlier. This is so heavy. This, I don't want to tilt it, but it's sort of like my rainbow colored crystals. And so I like that. I keep that. That actually sits on a shelf in my main bathroom, because it just sort of reminds me about being open-hearted and accepting of differences and that kind of thing. And my last one is this, which is, it's a little tiny, it's hard to see, I know. It's focusing on my face. But it's a little piece of china. And I found this in a place called District 6. And District 6 is in South Africa, and it's in Cape Town. And it is an area that used to, in the 60s, used to have a lot of Black political leaders. And they were challenging, the Afrikaners, the white people that were there in charge. And one day, the government came in and basically said to all the people that live there, you don't live here anymore. And they put them on buses and like bust them out to like the countryside, to like villages. And these were, it was in the 60s, these were city people. And then they bulldozed down all the homes. And when I was there in the early 2000s, it was still like just completely barren land. They had built a university there, and to try and get it back to being vibrant. But there was the one thing that they didn't bulldoze was a church. It was a little tiny chapel, and they made it into a museum of pictures of the people that lived there and things. And so it was right across from my hotel. And so I would go out there and I was walking around the field. I went to the museum and I found this. And I'm like, all these years, and people would still go out there and they would light fires like every night. They were still mourning that. And so to me, that little piece of china represents people who are resilient and people who, they survived. And they split up families. They would put little kids on one bus and their parents on another bus. And so people would lose their children and they would have to take on other children because they'd be little kids that couldn't take care of themselves. And so it's just this horrible, terrible chapter in history. But to me, like that little delicate piece of china, first of all, it represented somebody had that china in their home and they couldn't take their belongings with them. They were just, they maybe grabbed some clothes. And so the strength of that and the resilience in this tiny little bit of such a delicate, piece that survived all those years. So your correspondences can be whatever you want them to be. So let's pick a thing that we can start with. So Jill, whatever you want to do, you don't have to tell us, but you can. Okay. And that's what you're going to write at the top of the page. And I'm going to do one too. I've got, my grimoire, my cow print grimoire. And so just write the name of that thing that comes to mind.
Okay. It's going to be really odd. We're going to do potatoes.
Okay. I love it. Nothing wrong with that. Now, I don't know if we have any. Let me see if I can look and see. No, I don't have. Oh, wait. See if we have any traditional meanings of potatoes. I don't know that we do. No, not getting it from the one book I thought might have it. Let's see now. I don't know, Jill. We would have to do a search for that if you want to look for traditional meanings on that.
Okay, I'll look that up while you're talking.
Okay. So then, and maybe there's something in folklore as well. I think about stone soup, right? And sort of that coming together that people didn't notice what was happening. I don't know how they didn't notice, but they didn't. And they made a delicious soup for everybody by bonding together. When I think about potatoes, I think about them, growing below the surface. I think about how prolific they are with their eyes, right? Because you can grow a lot of potatoes off of one potato,
Potato.
and they're easy to grow. Yeah,
I
go
got a
ahead.
whole bunch of them. It's abundance and prosperity, groundedness, nourishment, resilience, humility, fertility, and growth. Irish traditions, potatoes became symbol of survival for family and home.
Sure.
And Andean, originating in the Andes, potatoes were revered as a sacred gifts from the earth. They're they cultivated thousands of varieties, and European folklore, a potato carried in the pocket was sometimes believed to ward off ailments such as rheumatism or bring good luck, though
Hmm.
these were folk beliefs rather than medically supported practices. Dreams, hidden potential, untapped resources, patience, building strong, and spirituality. It's the root chakra, stability and security, gratitude for simple blessings, and trusting slow, steady growth over quick results.
There you go. So I would
How
not have
interesting.
associated potatoes with the root chakra, but okay. I mean, a lot of very grounding stuff there. So
Yeah.
out of those things, just take whatever speaks to you. And you're going to
Mhm.
go ahead and jot that down as you're building your book. And you just, you don't have to take any of it if you don't want, but whatever resonates with you, jot it down. Um, Now, once you've written that down, um, let's go ahead and put down what your personal meaning is, because clearly you have one. Uh, and if you want to tell us, that would be great, because I am personally dying to hear what potatoes mean to you. But if you don't, you
They
don't
mean
have to.
security to me.
Okay.
In terms of like if I'm feeling uncertain or unsteady in life, I can make potato soup and it just like it just it that's what it means to me is
Mhm.
security. And I
Yeah,
love potatoes.
I love potatoes too. I've
And I
I've
grow
developed
them.
Oh, I developed a little bit of an issue with nightshade vegetables in the past couple of years. I'm not allergic to them, but
Mhm.
if I eat them too much, I start to get like swollen up, like my hands swell up and my joints hurt and stuff. So I try and limit it. But I'm like, oh, I want French fries and mashed potatoes.
I
But
have a
I've cut.
funny story about potatoes in that my daughter, we were in a restaurant, my son turned 21, and we live in Idaho, which is the potato state, okay? And so they were out of French fries. It was a burger joint. They were out of French fries, and literally across the street's a potato field. Like, how does that happen?
Um, yeah, potatoes, like, I don't usually get them in places like that because they're usually frozen. And a lot of times they'll be treated with sulfites in order to keep them from, oxidizing and turning brown. So I typically will ask if they cut them themselves. And if they do, I'm like,
Oh, this place did cut them. Everybody in Idaho cuts their own potatoes because
oh, interesting.
you
That
can't
sounds,
go. I can't go other places and get French fries because they're just gross.
yeah, yeah, I believe that. Um, there's only one restaurant that I really, really like the French fries in this area, and they have um, cheddar fries.
Mm.
And the cheddar, and it just like reminds me of my youth because they don't use like American cheese. They use I don't know if you've ever heard of this or not, but it's called Merkt, Merkt, and it's just like a brand of cheese, and it's really good quality and it's spreadable, so it's already kind of like melty. Oh my gosh, those cheddar fries. It's at a place called Michael's, but anyway, so yeah, and the first thing that I thought when you said like potatoes, I was like, okay, that's weird. I agree with Jill on that one. But my first thought was that you put potatoes into like soups and stews if it's too salty, if you've made it too salty, and
Yep.
it'll, you know. So that was my association with it. So we all see different things and think of different things. Why did I think of that first and not cheddar fries? I don't know, but I did. So if I was writing down my potato correspondences, that would be the first thing. Okay, so pretty
So what are
straightforward.
you doing?
I decided to do dragons because I've never written it down before. But it's, you know, they keep coming to me. And it's funny because when I was in high school, I worked at a movie theater and we had a Christmas party every year, and we'd stay overnight. And you know, the owner would be there at first, and then he would leave, and then we'd bust out the liquor and all of that, and we would, you know, stay up most of the night. And we had a Secret Santa kind of thing going, so everybody exchanged a gift. And the person that got my name, her name was Lorraine, and she got me this amazing like unicorn. It was like a plushie, but it was satiny, and it had a rainbow like strings with a like rainbow mane. Oh my gosh, I love that thing so much. But then for whatever reason, everybody in my life decided I loved rainbow or I loved unicorns. And that was it. Suddenly I had a unicorn collection. That's like my accidental correspondence. For years, people gave me unicorns. I had like 40 or 50 of them. I think I've only got a couple left now. I mean, I like unicorns. They're fine, but yeah, but dragons is one that I feel drawn to. So it's a little bit more important of a correspondence for me. Um, okay, so going forward, I'm going to challenge you a little, and anybody in the comments, to, like I always do, pay attention this week and see what you start to notice. If you keep running into a certain animal or type of animal, right? Plants that you hadn't seen before that are growing all around you. Um, a song that comes up more than once, um, or what happens in your dreams, right? And a good method that I usually use, because I don't want to turn the light on to write down my dream, I do a voice note in my phone. And I just sort of stream of consciousness for a minute or two, and then I go back to sleep because I do not, in fact, remember my dreams, as I am always convinced that I will. But I've learned to work around myself. Something that shows up unexpectedly, and you know, you're developing new ones all the time. Like I'm sure I talked about this before, but a while back I joined a new school community, and it was like, okay, you know, set an intention and then ask for something, ask for a sign, that, you know, and I just decided I want a black and white feather. And within the time frame, which was 48 hours, a black and white feather appeared. So that's sort of a newer one to me that now means success. Success is guaranteed. My business going forward is protected, just because of that experience. So, you know, they just notice this week and try to, you know, jot those down. And then you'll start to build your correspondence book by what is around you. So some ideas that you can explore: colors, right? You can look for different colors in your life and what they mean to you. Herbs, trees, stones, animals. You know, I talked about this early on, but you know, look at the seasons, look at the moon. When do you notice the moon? Do you always notice it when it just before full? I don't really pay a lot of attention to the moon cycle, just because, you know, if it always seems to come up. There are lots of people that do, and I either see it on Facebook, or it's like, oh, we're going to have a full moon ritual. And I'm like, is it the full moon again? So yeah,
Just drop up like so often.
right. And it's going to be very strange for me this month because we usually do a full moon ritual around the full moon. But for some reason, the circle decided to do a dark moon ritual this month. So it's going to freak me out. It's like wherever I go, the water to me feels like it's east because Lake Michigan is to the east of me. And if I go somewhere else and the water's on the west, I'm completely confused. So yeah, it's going to be very weird dark moon ritual. And different places. Look at different places. Do you notice when you're at a crossroads? Are you feeling drawn to go to the forest preserve? Do you run across a river unexpectedly? And so just start paying attention this week and see what it is that's coming up for you in your life and what it makes you think of. And so it's, really like things that I am noticing. And again, that's the basis of all good magic. So, any thoughts, questions, or ideas that anyone had? I didn't see any in the comments. But so, do you have a better understanding of what correspondences are and how to use them? And do you think you will use them?
Yeah, just having a label sometimes for things that you can incorporate into your magic practice is hugely helpful to me
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, I never heard of the word correspondences in this context before you started talking about it in your notes last week. I can hardly wait to find out about this.
Yeah, and I mean that's the fun thing is I really like to use a lot of symbolism in my practice because it's such an easy way to incorporate different ideas and make your working more powerful. And so I think that when you're working with correspondences, it's like all other magic, right? It's you get the recipe from the expert and you do it that way, and then you start to incorporate like, oh, I'd like a little more salt in this, or an extra stick of butter would make this better, which I
Oh,
learned.
mayonnaise.
Yeah, I learned that making shortbread where I accidentally like put in an extra stick of butter and I brought it to a ritual, and oh my god, they're like, never make it any other way again. so um, so yeah, and magic is like that, right? You deviate, you try different things, so just create your correspondences that are your own. And if there are no questions, which I don't think, please do, if you want to have more conversations like this, join me over on School. And Jill has dropped the link in. Thank you for that. Right at the bottom there. And I would love to have you join my community. It's free. You can jump right in and we can have conversations about anything magical that you want to talk about. So thanks everybody for being here.
And be sure to write down what correspondences you're coming up with because we're curious to know.
Absolutely. That would be really fascinating. Thank you for that, Jill.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Bye. Thanks for being here.